Has it been expedited by things like, like fiber? I mean, around our office, they're tearing up the whole street doing it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we see driving this, because obviously directional drilling is much less invasive. So we'd shut down a very small section of like a street intersection or something, or do a road crossing without having to shut the road down. So that's what's helped driving a lot of that. But we did see a huge emphasis put on basically the directional drilling market, and actually had cities ban it because of the number of strikes.
Right.
And that goes back to, having that digital map of what all is below.
So what's the way forward? What is Subsite offering the market now?
So today, it's kind of a full product suite of the things that they need to basically do that new installation, of whether that's open cut or even the trenchless methods. So at Subsite, we develop our own HE guidance systems for the directional drills. Well, in the development of that years ago, we started doing rod by rod bore planners. So not only can they go out there and get the locate information, but beforehand with the utility locator, they're able to link that data to the HE tracker system and be able to see those utilities that are out in front of them.
What's the utility locator?
So the Utility Guard 2 is a utility locator. It's a multi-frequency locator that they hook up to the lines, and they're able to go out and basically locate them.
So this is above ground?
Yes.
Yeah. And they're monitoring what? So how deep would that go?
I mean, it depends on the ground soil conditions. They have multiple different frequencies depending on the passive or active interference. So they'll go out there and figure out what's best case scenario. And that's where a lot of what's happened in the industry, because like I said, there's millions of locates going on every year. So if you've heard of 811, before you dig, so you call 811, they come out and do the locates. They'll go out and mark the ground, whether it's water, sewer, or gas, by color of paint. So when the directional drill gets out there, they're able to see that. They know that's where they need to pothole down to, and ensure they cross that utility without hitting it.
So is that, in a place, imagine in California, some of these major hubs, it would just be, I can't even imagine what's underneath the ground.
Absolutely.
And so when you're going into there, or someone's going in there with your units, that's, in some cases, they're going in blind without it.
And yes, and that's kind of what we've seen. I mean, the fiber industry was booming to the point where the locates weren't getting done in time. The guys weren't waiting to get those done, and they would go out there and start trying to work.
Right, yeah.
And that's where a lot of these best practices that NASTT, CGA, and those guys have put together for directional drilling has helped set those guidelines for those people to follow.
So how do you get the adoption of from this conversation, because we're talking about it in a very focused area, but of course, if you're looking at municipality and contractors, there's a lot of moving parts. How do you get that adoption, or people coming to you now?
So as an OEM, we work a lot with other people in the industry, even our competitors. We work with them to write white papers to help justify and show what those best practices truly are.
Right.
Because it is the only time you hear about directional drilling is when something bad has happened.
Yeah. It's one of those things, isn't it? Yeah.
But there's millions and millions of feet of fiber being put in right now, and the dirt report that CGA puts together and puts out, they track the number of major strikes that happen in a year. Well, it looks like a lot when you see 250,000 strikes, right? And it seems like a high number, but that's not accounting for the millions and millions of utilities that are being underground a year.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing with the trains. Obviously, that's getting a lot of coverage, and for good reason, but it's getting a lot of coverage. And then if you look up how many train derailments or problems happen in a year, it's literally in the thousands.
Absolutely.